If Doctor Who is going to keep having the power of love save the day, maybe they should just go ahead and append friendship is magic on the end of the title and be done with it. The Lie of the Land. First off, that's a great title. That's a clever double meaning. That's a decent pun. I like it. I am often one to groan at puns, but no, props. I like that one. So this, honestly, I feel like the entire thing where the fandom kind of craps on the Monk trilogy, which, again, to recap, would be Extremis, Pyramid at the End of the World, and this. Extremis is great. Pyramid at the End of the World is a really solid setup. This thing dropping the ball seems to be what gets people to write all three off, which is really unfair, because this is the only one that isn't very good out of the three. Then again, it is the last one, and as we learned from Game of Thrones, when you end really weak, people tend to not look back on the entire thing as fondly as maybe they would have otherwise. And I suppose that's kind of what we've got going on here. Here was the odd thing going back and rewatching it, because I haven't watched this one in ages. It starts really good. It's got a really, really strong opening. Between the washed out color palette, zeroing in on Bill as she kind of explains, we find out sort of narrating to her mother about what has gone on, this idea that the monks have basically gaslit the entire planet. And this is stuff that I didn't appreciate at the time that it aired, but definitely watching it now, catching the authenticity of the propaganda machine that the monks have put into place. The statues, the need for conformity, the insistence that they've always been here and this is just the way the world is. I think that, the statues, we find out there's more of a reason for them anyway, but these are the signifiers of totalitarianism. This is how fascists operate. This is how anybody who wants pure authority has to do. They have to stifle free thinking, put a clamp down on anyone who is going to counter their narrative, and constantly remind their populace of the narrative that they want them to believe and to adhere to. And the monks check off every single one of those boxes in the first 20 minutes or so. And I really do appreciate the thought that went into this idea of the propaganda machine and insisting on their own historical relevance, which is another thing that totalitarian-leaning movements, if not individuals, have a tendency to do. Insist on the past and the history and their glory being somehow eternal. Again, really good catch, really good integration of that idea. And Nardole has a line that I love.
However bad a situation is, if people think that's how it's always been, they put up with it. It's 90% of the job done.
That one sentence cuts right to the nature of human complacency brilliantly. This thing opens really strong. And then starts falling apart once we get the Doctor back into the story. I would say that it falls apart on the regeneration fake out, which is completely unnecessary and just really feels pointless. Did anybody think that he was actually going to regenerate with, 4 episodes to go left in the series? Yeah, nobody believed that. So there's no tension in that entire thing. And it's a very silly fake out and raises a whole bunch of logistical questions, which I'm not going to dwell on because they don't bother me that much. But if you're the kind of person that they do bother, the idea that the Doctor can fake a regeneration brings up a whole ton of questions of, wait, how? So if that's something that's going to get stuck in your craw, yeah, that's an issue. Not one for me, but it's still kind of dumb. The thing is, though, it starts falling apart even before that. And that is, unfortunately, the fault of the script, because the script starts wavering too much. It starts juggling too many things. And it is a shame because Capaldi and Pearl Mackie really go out of their way and do a pretty admirable job of trying to sell this conversation and the idea that the Doctor actually sided with the monks, which again, I never believed for an instant, but Capaldi did a really good job of selling those words, and Pearl Mackie did a really good job of performing what I would expect to see from Bill if she did believe him when he said that stuff. Now, like I said, I never believed the Doctor, but I believed that she believed him. But even that taken into account, I don't buy that she shoots him. That doesn't track for me at all. Even, upset and agitated and on edge and like having been clamped down on by the monks for 6 months prior to this, even with all that tension, it does not make sense to me for who she is as a person, that she would decide the solution is to shoot the Doctor. I don't buy it. And it becomes even stupider when you realize the Doctor wanted her to try and shoot him.
Not a great plan.
That's needlessly cruel. And I know he tries to justify it like I had to test you and be sure you weren't like a plant from the monks or whatever. It's a really thin justification for putting her completely needlessly through an emotional ringer to get her to take an action that doesn't make sense for her character and the Doctor to act like, that's what I wanted you to do.
How stupid do you think I am?
Whole thing just sort of, it's like a souffle deflating at that point. So, yeah, and then the tone gets really weird because it gets weird and light and jokey. And like there's like this gag bit about how the Doctor had all of the soldiers replace their bullets with blanks, but there was one soldier who hadn't, which means if Bill had picked that soldier to take his gun, she could have actually killed the Doctor, and it's played off like a joke. I'm like, what is going on? We were in what is effectively a complete fascist state 5 minutes ago. What is going on with this tone now? And then things, after that, it just keeps adding on stuff that it doesn't flow. From one to the next, it feels very jerky and disjointed because from there we go to the reveal of Missy in the vault. Now, a couple things about this. Thing number one. I think it was a good idea to reveal that Missy is in the vault at about this point in the series. One of the things I appreciate about Series 10 is even though it did the mystery box story series arc that I'm beyond sick of, revealing what was in the vault with 4 episodes left to go after this, that's a nice relief for me because it takes this stupid template that I'm really sick of for series arcs off the table so that I'm more going, ooh, now I don't know what the rest of the series is going to be because I was expecting the finale to be what's in the vault, and now it's already been revealed. So I like that. And the scene is even good because, I mean, Michelle Gomez on her own is great, and her playing off Capaldi is chef's kiss. Beautiful. Always love it. But it doesn't fit this story. Logistically, there's barely a reason for them to communicate with her at all. Again, it has a bit of a justification, but there's no reason it had to be her. There's no way, and like, oh, there's no way they could have found this out on their own. Well, you just said that in the script to justify having them talk to her, but that's not really true. There were a million things you could have done to have them find out the same information. It's an excuse to have her there, but the things that she needs to do in order to establish so that we can have stuff later, i.e. that she's trying to be good, that she could escape if she wanted, but she's deciding to stay there, and she's trying to work with the doctor on being a better person. These are all things we need to know for the sake of the rest of this series. But none of this benefits this story at all, and we are now so far away from the really well-conceived depiction of totalitarianism that we had to open the episode. We just keep getting further and further and further away from that. And now we have an action scene assaulting the monks' base. I do appreciate the detail. Again, this feels well thought out in terms of these sorts of totalitarianism or fascist governments or people in charge, is that there aren't nearly as many as they want you to think. They have to project this idea of strength that is so overpowering, no one would dare threaten them. But the reality is they are nowhere near as strong or as omnipresent as people think they are. So again, that's a really good detail. But, we just get this assault, and one of the soldiers, his thing that's going in his ear that is supposed to keep him grounded from the monk's lies, it goes awry, and he turns on them. Who the hell is this guy? Nobody knows. Whoop-de-frickin-do. So there's no tension in this scene. Yeah, it's not even like he was a character that we met and had gotten to know over the course of just this episode. He's just a soldier character. I think a name gets dropped. Who cares? Who remembers? So there's time wasted on that. There's no catharsis there. There probably is a decently thought out explanation for why Bill is able to feed the idea of her mother, and that somehow regrounds the reality and removes the monks from the false history, but I zone out. If there's an explanation by the time they give it, I've kind of mentally checked out of the episode. And I tried to pay attention to see if I could figure out the logistics, and I can't say definitively whether or not it makes sense because I can't bring myself to focus on it worth a dang. My eyes and my brain just slide off it by that point because I'm just going, you don't know what you're doing anymore. You have gone from, again, really, really good opening depiction of a totalitarian fascist-style state to the fake-out regeneration, to a little bit of wackiness, to the interaction with Missy, which it doesn't flow naturally off of that, to the assault on the monks, which feels like a very unearned as an action beat, and now all of a sudden it's about the power of love and memory channeled through Bill's mom. And at least they set up her mother a bit, her talking about her and, having this idea of her in her head is something that was brought up earlier in the series. We established the doctor, helping her get the pictures, that they did at least lay some groundwork for the mother specifically, but that doesn't mean that it fits any of the themes that have gone on up to this point. It doesn't end with any of the themes that it starts with, and none of this feels like it builds off any of the themes from Pyramid at the End of the World. At least opening on the fascism and the totalitarianism stuff feels like, we are dealing with consequences of what happened before. But even that isn't necessarily a natural progression from the thematics of the previous episode. So the themes that are in here are a jumbled mess that don't flow one to the other. Where we end doesn't match where we began at all. And I'm still not even entirely clear why the monks needed the planet in the first place, or wanted it. Was it a want? Was it a need? Is this just what they do? Is it a hobby? Are they trying to collect them all? Every inhabited planet in the universe? Why? Why are they doing this? I get the how. I get the how they operate, and the how is even interesting. But why? At least with the Daleks, we know they want to wipe everybody out. Even something as easy to write off as the Sycorax. They wanted slaves. That's something. It's not a deep motivation, but it's something. And these monks that you have spent now 3 episodes on and have really given us an ominous sense of their strength and the way they use deception. And I think they're even decent villains. But I don't know why they want Earth. And again, maybe they even said it. But much like the specifics of why the memory of Bill's mother saves the day, my brain has decided, no, I can't. I can't with this. By the point that it gets said. If it gets said at all. I want to say it doesn't. But it wouldn't surprise me if I get comments saying, oh, they do explain why the monks want Earth. It was this. And if that happens, I'll look at the comment and go, none of that registered at all. It is a shame. Because the previous 2 entries in this trilogy of episodes are really good. I mean, Extremis is great, even, I would argue. It's really a shame. Lie of the Land. You rewatched that lately? What'd you think about it? Whatever your thoughts are, drop something down in the comments. Let's talk about it. Usual stuff, like, share, subscribe. I have a Patreon. That is how I pay my bills, and there are perks. Things like Discord, early access to videos, voting on polls to help determine subjects, look at my docket for upcoming months, and things like that. Any amount you're able to give is a help and gets you some degree of perks, but you also don't have to. I mean, the other stuff I mentioned, the like, share, subscribe, those help me out as well. But you don't even really have to do that, because at the end of the day, you are the council. And I just run the meetings. Until next time, this council is adjourned.